Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, I want to talk to you about unmet expectations in your PMDD relationship. And the reason why I want to talk about this topic is that it is the leading cause of conflict with PMDD partners. When your partner shows up differently than how you expect them to in your mind, this is what leads to you starting fights, starting arguments, and starting to feel like you're underappreciated, starting to feel like you're not on the same page. You're starting to feel that you get offended. And all of these levels of conflict stem from you having unmet expectations. A lot of times you can go into situations with your PMDD partner and you can say, okay, so I know my PMDD partner is working right now. When they get out of work, we're going to have dinner. I'm going to cook dinner for them. Then after we cook dinner, we're going to watch a movie. After we watch a movie, then we're going to cuddle and then we're going to have sex that night. This is what you plan in your mind. The whole time that you have these expectations in your mind, you're not communicating it with your PMDD partner. You're just assuming that it's going to happen the way that you rationalize it in your mind. So you go on, you have the dinner, and maybe you cuddle on the couch and then it's time for bed. But maybe one of the things don't happen that's in the scenario in your mind, meaning you finish watching the movie, you go to get into bed, and then all of a sudden you go to have sex and you go to be intimate and you go to connect and they roll over and go to sleep. This unmet expectation in your PMDD relationship is now forming damage and a strain on your relationship because you begin to develop a sense of resentment. When you have resentment in your PMDD relationship, it is because you consistently fail to meet each other's expectations. It can lead to feelings of resentment, meaning feeling like you deserve better than that. The partner with the unmet expectations may feel hurt and frustrated, abandoned, neglected, not treated fairly, while the partner who doesn't have the expectations may feel unfairly criticized or feel like they're burdened by these expectations. So many times when we're in PMDD, we're always searching for moments where we have to strategically connect. Like it can't be things that we just expect to happen. We feel like we need to work extra hard in order to create that moment where we want to connect with our PMDD partner. So say if you've gone all day long and you really felt like you're not feeling connected, you're feeling insecure in your PMDD relationship, instead of just going to your PMDD partner and telling them that, you're like, I know how to get their attention. I know how to do something that would cause us to connect. I'm going to plan this really nice thing. And you take all of your energy that you have left while you're in PMDD and you put your blood, sweat, and tears in making them dinner or creating an environment where you're going out to dinner or making sure the kids are in bed at a good time so you can have time for intimacy. You are putting forth a lot of effort to get what it is that you need, which is that connection. And your PMDD partner has no idea that this is going on. So at the end of the evening, when they're going to go to sleep, or they're going to say that they have to do work things, or they're going to play a video game, or they're going to play on their phone, you're all of a sudden feeling resentful because it's not going according to the plan that you have in your mind. So then they're clueless about all of this. They're very clueless as to why you're even upset. So they may go to talk to you, about what's going on. Like, hey, I noticed your mood is shifting. Like, what is going on? And this is the second thing that comes up, and that is the communication breakdown. So unmet expectations can lead to a breakdown in communication. PMDD partners may feel less willing to express their needs and desires because they're fearing that they're going to be let down. They're fearing that disappointment. They're fearing that conflict. They're feeling that argument. They're fearing that judgment. And this lack of open communication can stop you from solving the actual problem, which is that you're wanting to connect, you're wanting intimacy, and you're wanting to be understood. So when that communication is broken down, what that can look like is your PMDD partner stops talking to you, or they become really short with you, or they become very matter-of-factly with you. Like, this is what it is. Like, they're expressing communication where there's no actual emotion tied to this. And I know that this has happened so many times with me and my PMDD partner. And this is how it shows up for us, is that, we're long distance. So a lot of times we spend a lot of times during our month traveling. And he always has this expectation that when I come in the car, when he picks me up from the airport, that I'm really, really excited to see him, and that I hug and kiss him. And we have like this movie screen, like, greeting. Or when he's coming to see me, he's expecting to feel all of this love, affection, attention, all of these things, because he hasn't seen me in a couple of weeks, or he hasn't seen me in this time. And so he has the expectation that when he comes into my presence, that he's going to get this grandiose greeting. And a lot of times we've had arguments because I've seen him, I've leaned over, I've given him a kiss and a hug, and then I go off to driving. And it's not the grandiose image that he had in his mind. And so I don't know, remember how I said, like, one of the PMDD partners may be clueless. I'm clueless as to why he has an attitude, why he's seeming bitter with me. But it's because he had the expectation this whole trip, the whole time he's been traveling, he has this picture in his mind of how I'm going to greet him when we go to the airport. And I remember this happened even early on in our relationship. And I told him, I was like, I'm not that type of person that is, I don't have the personality. It's almost like I don't understand where these expectations have come from, because I've never shown it to you. Like, I've never shown you that this is what I do. So with me, the way I rationalize expectations is, if I've done something and then I stop doing something, then I can understand how you can have unmet expectations. Because I feel like if I go over the top and then I pull back, then you're like, okay, my expectations are not met because I was expecting you to go over the top. But if I never go over the top with the greeting, then where did you get any idea that I was going to do this? And a lot of times PMDD partners have an image in their mind of the perfect PMDD partner and what that feels like and what that looks like. So your PMDD partner may think that when they come home, that you're going to greet them with a hug, that you're going to have dinner ready, that you're going to be so happy to see them, all of these things. And then you're feeling like you're overwhelmed with PMDD symptoms, and you may be in the room curled up in the bed and not wanting to connect with them. So now they in turn have this level of bitterness and resentment. And the breakdown in communication comes from because they're so resentful, they're not willing to connect with you at that point because they didn't get what they pictured in their mind. And a lot of times this happens with greetings. So this is why I'm bringing these examples up, because I want you to just think about in your subconscious ways that you have had expectations of how your PMDD partner is going to show up, and ways that you've been disappointed. And a lot of times this disappointment is because it was never communicated to your PMDD partner that this is what you expected. So say, for instance, your PMDD partner is coming home from work and you tell them, during the day that you're tired, you have PMDD symptoms, all those things, you may have the expectation that they're going to bring dinner home. Like, you're not cooking dinner tonight, they're automatically going to bring dinner home. And then that way you can be able to relax. Or when they come into the house, they're going to immediately take the kids from you and they're going to start doing things that you were doing and take over so that you can relax. Again, you're having this expectation that I gave them this little bit of information, and based off of that, they're going to show me different actions. And so when they come home and they go internal and they greet you and they go to, maybe take a shower or do something, you can be bitter or resentful because you're like, man, they came straight home. They didn't even come and try to take the kids from me to give me some me time. And this is a lot of time where the ego comes in with your PMDD partner and you start to compare what you do versus what they do. So if you stay home with the kids, you may start to say, I'm home with the kids this whole time and they don't do anything. Or if you're at home and you have projects and you have things going on and you're saying, I cooked this meal, I did all this around the house, and all they had to do was go to work. So you're now comparing your efforts to their efforts. And this creates a sense of resentment and bitterness towards your PMDD partner. And then when they try to communicate with you and see what's going on, you don't even want to talk to them because you're so hurt because you have these unmet expectations. So the next thing that can come up for you is a loss of trust. So repeated instances of unmet expectations can get rid of the trust that you have within your PMDD relationships. When your PMDD partner makes promises or commitments that they don't meet, the trust that you have for them can be damaged, and it's difficult for your PMDD partner to rely on you. You can't rely on each other anymore. So a lot of times if your PMDD partner is going to work, for example, and you say, hey, can you go to the grocery store and pick up this for dinner? And then they have a long day and they don't go to the grocery store. And then they get home and you begin to say, oh, did you bring, the eggs or whatever? Let's just call it eggs. And they're like, oh, sorry, I forgot or whatever. Well, you may forgive them the first time that they forget. You're like, okay, I'll just make it work. But if you have a pattern time after time after time where you're asking them to do things for you on the way home or when they come back, if you're asking them to do things that are going to make your life easier, and then all of a sudden they're telling you that they forgot or it wasn't a priority for them or however they're explaining it, this means that you're going to stop trusting that you can trust them. You're going to start feeling like, I guess I have to do everything by myself. You're not a supportive PMDD partner. I guess everything is just landing on me, and it can feel very burdensome because you can start to feel the pressure of meeting your own expectations. Like, you're not in a position anymore to trust your PMDD partner to meet your expectations. The ego can come in and you can get very independent and say, I guess if I want something done, I'll just do it myself. How many times have you said that to your PMDD partner when they've come in to help you, but they haven't shown up the way that you expect in your mind? And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? That's okay. I'll just do it. So you lost faith and trust in their ability to do something for you. So you automatically take it on yourself and say, I'll just do this by myself. So the next time it comes up, instead of asking for help, you're doing the opposite. You're piling more and more onto yourself, including when you're in PMDD. And then you're becoming more bitter and resentful when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel stressed, because you're like, if I had a PMDD partner that was able to help me, I wouldn't be this stressed and overwhelmed. And this is how you begin to think of your PMDD partner as the enemy, because you're putting all of this bitter and resentment and the stress that you're feeling as a result of your unmet expectations on them. You're saying they're the reason I'm having these negative emotions. And this is what leads to the next thing that comes up, and that is conflict and tension in your PMDD relationship. So unmet expectations lead to conflict and tension with your PMDD partner. When you start to argue with them, when you're fighting with them, it can become very frequent. You can start to do this on a monthly basis where as soon as you go into PMDD, you're expecting, they know that I'm about to suffer. They know I don't have the energy to do these things, but you're not communicating to them that you want them to do these things. You're expecting them to know it because you're like, hey, if they see me suffering, obviously they know that I need help with this. So I'm assuming that if I just explain my suffering to them, that they're going to plug in, oh, I'm going to help her in this particular way. So a lot of times this can happen where you tell them early on in the day, I don't have a lot of energy today. I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling this. And then they go off on their day and then they come home and they don't meet any of your needs that you stated in the morning. You may think because I communicated how I was feeling, they should be thinking of ways throughout the day of how they can make my life easier, how they can take some things off my plate, how they can stop me from being so stressed and overwhelmed. But instead, they may go home and go internal and go do their own thing. So this is where the bitterness and the resentment comes because you can even begin to pick a fight with them and say, you're so selfish. I can't believe I told you this, this, and this, and you didn't even try to help me. And once you begin to pick at your PMDD partner for what they're not doing when you're having these fights, this causes the next thing, which is the emotional distance between you and your PMDD partner. So unmet expectations can create emotional distance between you and your PMDD partner. The disappointment and the frustration associated with the unmet needs can lead to partners withdrawing emotionally or feeling the need to protect themselves. And I know that this happened so many times with my PMDD partner where he is basically not met my needs. I'm the one that gets emotionally distant because I start to think, I guess, because I already have the avoidant attachment. So I feel like if I tell you all of the things all of the ways that I'm suffering, and you don't offer me a way out, you don't offer me any assistance, I'll start to get emotionally distant and feel like, what's the point of communicating with you? If when I communicate with you, I tell you my needs, I tell you my wants, my desires, all of these things, and you literally do nothing about it. So I get into this mode of I'll just do everything myself because it's easier because I already know what I need. And it makes no sense of depending on you. So you start to get into that realm of I can't depend on my PMDD partner. This is when if you ever have intrusive thoughts, they start to come up in that way. It's like, wow, you have a partner that you can't even depend on. And if intrusive thoughts is something that has come up for you, I want you to join the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy because I have a whole 4-part series on how you can manage PMDD intrusive thoughts, the actual tangible tools that you can use when you're having the PMDD intrusive thoughts, so that you don't feel stressed out in your relationship with all of these ruminating, repetitive, negative things that are being repeated in your mind about your PMDD partner and your relationship that are ultimately going to eventually lead to you wanting to break up. If you let those intrusive thoughts fester and really get into your psyche, you're going to be like, I don't need to be in this relationship. I need to get the heck up out of here. And so I want you to join the academy, get that training. You can also have access to our live sessions that we've done in the past that have been really, really helpful, where we've collaborated and expressed a lot of the intrusive thoughts that have been coming up for us in the moment. And you'll see how I work through them just like I would do in a private session to get you to the point where you're stopping the intrusive thought from causing you to stress out in your PMDD relationship and feel like you shouldn't even be there. And so the next thing that may come up for you when you have unmet expectation is the reduced intimacy. So emotional and physical intimacy suffers when you have unmet expectations. Your PMDD partner is going to feel less connected or interested in even being intimate with you, which is going to impact how you feel about the whole relationship. So I know a lot of times for me, when my PMDD partner has not met my expectations, when he goes to be intimate, I'm almost disgusted. I'm almost like baffled, disgusted. Like, why in the world would you think that we're about to be intimate when I thought that you were going to pour into me at a time that I needed you, and you didn't. But now it's a time where you need me and you expect me to just be intimate with you. So a lot of the intimacy, you may think that it's just physical, but if you emotionally have unmet expectations, it's going to be really hard for you to turn that switch off. I know there is a small population of PMDD partners that are able to overlook how they're feeling about their PMDD partner and just be intimate anyway. And if you're in that space, you may be able to do it, but it may be really hard for your PMDD partner to do it. Meaning you may be in that place to be like, you know what, we're not meeting each other's needs, we're not meeting each other's expectations, but I still want to be physically intimate. Whereas your PMDD partner may say, because my needs aren't met, because my expectations aren't met, I can't be intimate with you. So now you're at that standstill. You're at that place where one is willing and one is not. And that's what causes it causes even more unmet expectations, because now you have the expectation that you're going to be intimate, and that goes down the drain. And then you may think to yourself, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is why we're not compatible, because I want to be intimate to connect, and they're not willing to do it because we're not connected. So now you're noticing the difference between how you get to that place of intimacy and getting your expectations and your needs met, because the expectations of your partner may be, I need to be emotionally connected with you before I'm physically intimate. And your stance may be, I need to be physically connected before we can be emotionally intimate. Meaning I need to feel close to you on a physical level before I can open up to you on an emotional level. And if your partner is the opposite, this is where you may start to have those intrusive thoughts about compatibility and say, how is this supposed to work? Because no one's willing to budge. A lot of times when you have those unmet expectations and you're not communicating about them, you are in that place where it seems like you're at a standstill. I need this and I'm not getting it. You need this and you're not getting it. So then you get to the point of saying like, well, what are we doing then? If neither one of us are meeting each other's needs, then why are we in this relationship? And this is what leads to the PMDD monthly breakups. And the next thing that can come up for you when you're having these unmet expectations is a breakdown of your overall satisfaction of your relationship. As you begin to have more and more unmet expectations, you begin to feel less and less satisfied with your relationship as a whole. You're not going to feel fulfilled. You're not going to feel content. And you're almost going to feel like you're wasting your time, because you're going to feel like, I'm expecting all of these things. I'm very clear on what I'm expecting. Why is it that they're not giving it to me? Maybe they're just not the right person. I feel like it would be so much easier if I was asking someone else for this. Like maybe the problem is that I just have the wrong PMDD partner. Because a lot of times when you have unmet expectations, you may not think that your expectations are that high. And what I mean by that is you may think like you're asking for the bare minimum. I'm just asking for them to be supportive. I'm just asking for them to listen to the ways that I'm suffering and provide solutions. I'm just asking for them to, like, you may think that it's so simple and that the reason why they're not meeting your expectations is because they're not trying, for a lack of effort. And then if you feel like it's because of a lack of effort, then you may think to yourself, how committed are they to this relationship if they're not willing to help me out? If I'm suffering in PMDD and you can't come and take something off my plate, then why am I with you? This is when the ego comes in and you're like, what are we even doing? Because I can have my expectations not met all by myself. Like, what's the point of even putting my trust and confidence in you that you're going to do this if you're just going to continuously let me down? And every single time you have another unmet expectations, it affects you over time. You begin to think about this. Every single time you have an unmet expectation, you start to look at your PMDD partner differently. And how you look at them differently, the first thing that tends to go is a lack of respect. You lose respect for your PMDD partner when they don't meet your expectations. I'm going to repeat that. You will lose respect for your PMDD partner when they stop meeting your expectations, because you begin to think of what you can do on your own and why do you even need them and what are they even there in the relationship for? These are the questions that you're going to ask specifically when you're in PMDD. And if you're the partner that doesn't have PMDD, you're going to ask yourself the same question when they're in PMDD. You're going to say, they go through all this PMDD every single month. I have to deal with their mood swings up and down, all around, and all the things. I don't deserve this. I can do better. Like, if they're not appreciative of the things that I'm doing, then why am I even here? If I go to someone else and I give the same amount of effort, I would have gratitude, I would have appreciation. But because they're suffering in PMDD, I don't get any of that. So what am I even doing here? Again, this is where the PMDD monthly breakups come in. And the next thing that can come up for you when you have unmet expectations is an impact on your self-esteem, which is so big. So the partner with the unmet expectations, you may start to question your self-worth. Like, maybe I'm a bad PMDD partner. I remember I did this so many times when my PMDD partner would start to mention to me the kind of reaction that he was expecting from the airport. Let's go back to the airport example. He was expecting like literally like a Hallmark movie. And I love these movies on Hallmark and Netflix. Now Netflix is coming out with a lot of them where it's just like rom-coms, like romantic comedies and all of these things. And I love that. And I know we're going into like the Christmas season, so there are going to be so many on. But he's literally expecting that from me every single time that we see each other. Where what's most comforting for me when I see you, and I haven't seen you in a long time, is my ability to just be myself, regulate myself, and then integrate you back into my life in a calm way. I don't need to be super dramatic about it, because I feel like then it makes it like a big event. And if me and my PMDD partner are in that place where we're long distance for long periods of time, where I don't want it to be like we're strangers and all these things. Like, I want it to be, I can just do what I do on a normal day, and you can just slide in. And yes, I greet you, like I hug you, I kiss you, all the things, but making it into like we're running through the sunflower fields, like with our arms stretched out for 40 yards, running towards each other, is what my PMDD partner has in his mind. And I'm more of a, hey babe, how are you doing? Like, kind of like a greeting that you would get at the end of a day. That's the difference with my greeting and his expectations. And I can get why he thinks that, because he travels a lot for the military. So he probably, envisions that, like, I have all of this battle going on. I want to just come home. So when he's thinking I want to come home, he's thinking that he wants to be in this environment where he's completely loved and adored and everyone is just embracing him. And a lot of times when you're in the military, that's things that can get you through war. Just thinking about, how you're greeted when you come home. And so what happens is it really impacts my self-esteem. And this may happen to you when your PMDD partner starts to criticize how their expectations are not met. You can start to be like, wow, maybe I would be a better PMDD partner if I did that. Like, you may not have even not met their expectations on purpose. You may have been like, you were just unaware, but you also feel bad that they have these unmet expectations. And so the next thing that can come up for you is when you have unmet expectation, it can lead to you're being stagnant in your PMDD relationship. You're being still. So PMDD partners that have unmet expectations may get stuck in these negative patterns where they're unable to move forward and address important issues in their PMDD relationship because they're consistently being disappointed. When you get to that place where you're consistently disappointed, you may begin to get very like tired of the same pattern again and again and again. You're like, here we go again. We're going through the same issue. I don't know what to tell you. Like, this sucks for me. It sucks for you. Maybe this is how our relationship is going to be. And you begin to accept a lower standard, a lower expectation. So all you do is lower your expectations for your relationship so that you can potentially not be disappointed. I remember I had a client and I was in a session and the couple was like, the partner was like, you just need to aim low. And so I kept asking, like, what is this aim low mentality that you keep having? And he said, you need to aim low. That way you'll never be disappointed. You'll never have unmet expectations if you only require the bare minimum of your PMDD partner. So in their mind, they felt like the way to not have unmet expectations is to lower your expectations so low that just by being there is enough for you. And I think I don't agree with the lowering them to where it's the bare minimum, but I do agree with being realistic about your expectations, meaning, is this part of the personality that my PMDD partner has? Because a lot of times the pictures that you have in your mind, the expectations that you have in your mind, they were there before you even got into the relationship. You may have gotten into the relationship for the whole picture that you painted in your mind. Maybe I want to be able to come home to a family and they greet me at the door and they kiss me and love me and they wrap their arms around me and I just feel so loved and so cherished and so valued. That may be the whole reason you got into a relationship as a whole. And then you marry someone who has never done that, but you're willing to accept it. And then once you get into a relationship, whether you marry them or not, you get into a committed relationship and you're expecting them to fulfill that role. Instead of looking at what your actual PMDD partner does and what's in alignment with their personality, specifically if they have PMDD, meaning what do they do when they're in PMDD and what do they do when they're not in PMDD, and expecting that. So if I gave you this grand greeting when I'm in my follicular days and it met your expectations, you need to have different expectations when I'm in PMDD because I'm probably not going to greet you that way. And I think that's where a lot of the mistakes are made, is that PMDD partners are not shifting their expectations to meet the timeline of PMDD. If you're tracking your partner's cycle, the one who has PMDD, you should not be expecting the same things from them when they're in PMDD. That's not a thing. I know that a lot of times the person that's suffering with PMDD may overwork themselves and be a high functioning PMDD partner where they're doing all of these things, whether they're in PMDD or not. But if there's ever a point that they don't, you should not expect it. There needs to be a different level. Now there are things that you can respect, meaning I'm expecting to be respected. I'm expecting to be valued. I'm expecting to feel loved. But there are certain things where you can't expect them to go above and beyond when they're physically and emotionally and mentally not in a place to do so. And I think the way that you find that out is you start to study your PMDD partner and how they react in PMDD and how they react in their follicular phase. And you base your expectations on how they are genuinely reacting. You don't even have to tell them that you're doing it. Just do your own research. I am a firm believer that you should always be researching your PMDD partner. Both of you. Both of you should be researching them to figure out what they need. We go through different phases in our life and we need different things through different phases in our life, but we need to be able to get to a point where we are literally studying our PMDD partner so that we can show up the best way for them. And so when you're noticing how they are in PMDD and how they're not, then you can base your expectations on that. And sometimes with PMDD, a lot of times you don't have the same kind of month. So I may have had a lighter month with PMDD and had different symptoms where they're not necessarily affecting the relationship. And then I can have the next month and it can be horrible. So you have to be flexible when you're getting in your mindset of how you're adjusting your expectations. Get into alignment with viewing, observing your PMDD partner and taking them however they show up. I don't want you to put your unmet expectations on them. I don't want you to say, this is my favorite phrase to tell PMDD partners to stop saying. If you loved me, you would ... That is the common phrase that someone with expectations in their mind have. Because they're saying, if you loved me, you're going to fit into this box of what I've created in my mind. And that is false. Because if I loved you, I love you, and it's going to show up in whatever way I show you. And a lot of times PMDD partners are not able to accept that because they're so solidified in the picture that they're painting in their mind that they can't even accept what's in front of them. They can't accept the love and attention and affection and the effort and support that you're giving them because it doesn't align with the image that they have in their mind of their expectations. And so you have to release yourself from the expectations and literally say that mantra to yourself. I'm accepting my PMDD partner however they show up. It is a mantra that you have to say because if not, you're going to consistently be waiting for them, almost suggesting to them, and influencing them to show up in a way. I know my PMDD partner did this a lot of times where because I wasn't showing up the way that he wanted, I wasn't meeting his expectations. He tried to create an environment for me to meet his expectations, where he was kind of doing half of it for me. So when it came to greeting him, he acted really, really happy. He acted over the top and he was expecting me to match his energy. Like pretty much, I'm going to react the way that I want her to react. And then all she needs to do is match my energy. And then I'll get my expectations met. Well, I'm a very independent person. So when he was acting, so over the top, I just was like, meh. Like I didn't think that didn't compel me to start acting that way. I just thought he was really happy to see me, which I thought was fine. Because in my mind, it's fine for you to be really, really happy to see me and you express it in a different way. I can be happy to see you, but that doesn't mean that I'm like jumping for joy or running down a field. Like it doesn't look the same. And that's what I want to let you know is that the way your PMDD partner shows you love, affection, attention, validation, it may not look the same as it does in your mind. And that's okay. The goal is not to get them to show up and manipulate them into showing up in a way that fits the picture in your mind. They're not a doll. They're not a puppet. They're their own person. And a lot of the qualities that they have are qualities that you admire. But if you begin to be very judgmental and saying, you're not doing this and you're not doing that, it's just going to cause them to do less. Because they're going to be like, okay, if you're not satisfied with how I'm showing up, if you're not satisfied with what I'm doing, they're like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't have to be here. Like, if you're not satisfied with the amount of effort that I am showing you and you're expecting something different, then go get somebody that's going to give you the something different, because I'm just here to show up and be me and very authentic. These are the intrusive thoughts that you may be thinking in your mind, or even the regular thoughts. When you feel pressured and backed in a corner to meet the expectations of your PMDD partner, you may get into that ego-filled mindset of like, you know what? Since everything I'm doing is wrong, since it's not good enough for you, since I'm not meeting your expectations, why don't you just go find someone that can meet your expectations? And this is what goes into the last way that I'm showing you that unmet expectations show up in your PMDD relationship. And that is with the worst of all, infidelity, cheating, and then ending the relationship. So in very extreme cases, and I've seen this with my PMDD partner, private clients, unmet expectations can contribute to infidelity, because one partner will say, I expected my PMDD partners to show up like this, and because they didn't, I went and found somebody who would. And I felt justified in it because I felt like I deserved that kind of reaction. I deserved that kind of attention, love, validation, and my partner wasn't willing to give it to me. So it left the door open for someone else who was more than willing. And let's just be honest, there's always people that are standing at the door waiting for a crack, and they're more than willing to do the things that you're cringing about. So when it comes to infidelity, I'm always very realistic in a sense that it's easy to cheat, because there's so many people that are single that are wanting relationships that if you just tell them what to do, they'll do it because they want a relationship that bad. And they may not care about the specifics of your PMDD partner, but if your PMDD partner, starts to show some vulnerability and show that their expectations are not being met, the best believe there's someone on the side that is like planting the seed. Like, I would love to do that for you. I can't understand anybody who wouldn't want to do that for you. And so when the PMDD partners feel unfulfilled and disconnected, they're going to seek that satisfaction of getting their expectations met outside of the relationship. And that's what leads to the ultimate downfall and the ultimate level of betrayal that comes with the PMDD monthly breakups. Because now they're looking outside of the relationship and saying, oh, you know what? Like, I'm just in this place where I'm not going to try to force my PMDD partner to meet my needs. I'm not going to try to beg them and plead with them, because I know that there's a laundry list of people that'll be willing to do it, that I don't have to beg. And then what does that feel like for you? And both of you, the one that suffers with PMDD and the one that doesn't, can find yourself in this situation if you have unmet expectations for so long. This happens over a long period of time, and you begin to think, you know what, I don't have to deal with this. This is where the ego comes in. So I want you to really think about the ways that you have unmet expectations. And I want the tools that I have for you are to ensure that your expectations are aligned with the personality and the character of your PMDD partner. If you do have expectations, make sure that it's things that you've actually seen your PMDD partner do, things that you know that they're capable of, not things that you wish they did, not things that you've seen them do for other people. You meaning I've seen them do that for me, and so I'm going to expect them to treat me this way. Only go based off of that, because if you're expecting them to change to meet your expectations, you're going to lead yourself into a world of disappointment. You're going to lead yourself in a world of disappointment, which the catalyst is going to be the unmet expectations. And this is all going to happen because you're not being realistic and you're not communicating. When you begin to know that you're having an expectation in your mind, the first thing I want you to do is communicate it with your PMDD partner. Hey, I was thinking that we were going to do this when you got home. What do you think? Easy peasy. So now you're giving your PMDD partner enough time to prepare for your expectation. And that's the next PMDD trauma transformational tool is give your PMDD partner enough time to prepare to meet your expectations, because maybe they're in the place where they're like, you know what, I can meet your expectations, but it's going to take some planning and some preparation. It's not what I was normally going to do. Like if they're planning on ordering out, but you have the expectation that they're going to cook, give them time to go to the grocery store. By having the conversation, it was like, hey, I'm thinking I want steak tonight or whatever. And you know you don't have any steak in the house. Now you're getting their expectation early on, and then you can go to the store and get the steak and have it ready for them. So now when they're coming in the house, it's not like, oh, I'm wishing that they cook me steak, but I haven't said anything, and then they bring you chicken. Like there's nothing like getting chicken when you're expecting steak. It automatically tastes dry in your mouth. You're like, oh, you shouldn't have. So I want you to really think about the ways that you have unmet expectations in your PMDD relationships. And it's fine. We should all be living in a state of expectations, but there are ways that you can get your expectations met. And the first thing I said is communication. You communicate what your expectations are. You customize your expectations to your specific PMDD partner, and you show gratitude so that they continue to meet your expectations. If you don't do the third thing, which is show gratitude, they're probably not going to do it again. Always show gratitude when your expectations are met, and it'll reduce the likelihood that you'll have unmet expectations. Reducing the likelihood that you'll have unmet expectations goes towards having gratitude when your expectations are met. Because when that person feels like, wow, I did a good job, like they really were grateful that I did that, the next time they show up, they're going to be more than willing to do it again, especially with your PMDD partner. You know, you make them dinner and they show you all this gratitude. What is it going to make you want to do? Make more dinner for them so that you can receive that same level of gratitude and acceptance and validation and all of those things. But don't continue on with these false narratives in your mind that you have never communicated with your PMDD partner. I want you to release the fantasy today, because I just showed you how damaging the fantasy can be, because no one else can meet up to your expectations in your mind that are not based on your PMDD partner. If you have expectations of what your ex did and you're saying like, oh, my ex did this, why can't they do that? Yeah, they're your ex for a reason. They probably did meet your needs and your expectations in that area and failed in a whole bunch of other ones that your current partner would never do. So I want you to look at the balance when you're going to judging your PMDD partner of the ways that they're not showing up for you. Look at the ways that they are. Look at the ways that they are showing up for you, because yeah, you can think about an ex and be like, say if you had a really good intimacy level with your ex and you're like, and now you're struggling with intimacy with your current partner. And you're like, man, with my ex, I never had to deal with this. Like intimacy was always a thing. It was like a daily thing. It was like a ritual. And now with my PMD partner, it feels like I'm pulling teeth. Well, yeah, you may have to pull teeth But what else does your PMDD partner bring to the table? One thing may be harder for you, but the rest of it may be completely easier because you actually have someone that's loyal, that's dedicated to you, that's dedicated to your family, that's dependable, that's willing to put forth the effort, that's all these other amazing qualities, but you're downplaying them because they're not meeting that one expectation. And I want you to stop that. Stop downplaying the contribution from your PMDD partner because it doesn't match the level of expectation that you have in your mind. Just because they don't show up the way that you thought that they were going to show up doesn't mean that they're not supposed to be your person. So I want you to stop putting your PMDD partner in a box and saying, if this is all they can do at this phase of their life, like if whatever they have going on, this is what they can do, I accept it and I'm grateful. And gratitude is really the key tool for the unmet expectations, because you can't be grateful and be bitter because you don't have your expectation met. Gratitude is always going to win. So go towards gratitude for what they do and stop judging them by the unmet expectations and give them a little bit of time, because maybe you told them things that you want them to do and they just haven't gotten the confidence, gotten whatever it is, they haven't gotten around to doing it, but I guarantee you that they probably haven't forgotten. So I don't want you to take these unmet expectations and start to question your PMDD relationship. If you're doing that, you need to join the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy. We're not going to let you go out like that. We're not going to let you take that route of saying, it's not meant to be. No. We're going to dig deep and really figure out what's going on with these tools before you make that permanent decision off of the temporary emotions of your expectations not being met by your PMDD partner. So until next time, we got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is, if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things, so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship, so you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.